Hello, howdy, and vanakkam. Welcome to part one of the Building AI-enabled applications using Watson APIs course. My name is Swami Chandrasekharan, and I will be your instructor, guide, and a little helper for this course. John McCarthy gave a very profound definition of AI, and he said, it's the science and engineering of making intelligent machines. In this course, we will look at how to build AI models and build applications that are infused with AI using one of the pioneering AI platforms out there, IBM Watson. I have over 20 years of experience as an architect, engineer, and an innovator. I currently work at KPMG as a managing director in their AI Innovation and Enterprise Solutions group. Previously, I spent 12 years at IBM, and out of which I spent 5+ years at Watson. I was with Watson from its very early days. Did a lot of things, was in their CTO office, I was in engineering, product development, and then I also led an organization that co-innovated with clients in the adoption of AI and Watson. So what are we going to learn in this course? Like I said, it's part one. There's a lot of content. I've tried to make sure that these are easily digestible, and I try to explain them in a very simple manner. So we'll have 6 sections, and the first section we'll start with giving an introduction to the IBM Watson platform. We will look at starting with different types of data, structured and unstructured data, and then we look at features and basics of machine learning. We'll look at the overall life cycle of what it takes to build models using a supervised and an unsupervised learning approach. We'll look at deep learning techniques or basics of deep learning. What are some of the characteristics of a cognitive system? Then we look at what is Watson, a very important point to demystify. What is Watson? Then we look at how Watson is available as a set of APIs organized around 6 categories and available on the IBM platform. Then we look at how Watson learns. How does Watson learn? And we look at how do you train Watson in a very generic sense, so that you understand it's a learning system. And then we'll look at a few examples of where Watson is applied at work. Then moving on to section number 2, we will get started with coding for IBM Watson. This is where we would start to get our hands and fingers wet, roll up our sleeves, and we'll start with signing up for the IBM Cloud, because Watson is available on IBM Cloud. Then we'll log into the IBM Cloud console and we'll browse the catalog to look at all the available services. I'll walk you through some basics of Cloud Foundry and service instances. Then we'll set up a development environment and install a set of tools and packages and libraries along the way, and I'll walk you through that. Then we'll look at some of the Watson the tools that are, we will look at some of the tools that are required in ID and libraries, and we'll set them up. Then we will go and do what is called Hello Watson by creating a Watson service instance and testing that service instance. And then we'll install Node-RED, the Python and Node.js SDK for Watson, and we'll do a Hello World program from those. Then moving on to section number 3, what we'll do there is we'll talk about Watson Assistant, which is used for building conversational bots or conversational systems. And we'll look at some of the key characteristics of a good conversation system. Then we'll do a deep dive into Watson Assistant and look at all its capabilities and what are the APIs that are available. Then we'll look at an overall approach to building conversational systems with Watson Assistant. And then we'll look at a high-level architecture and talk about some of the key concepts in architecture in conversational systems, like utterances, intents, workspace entities, workspaces, and whatnot. Then we'll launch Watson tooling. We'll create intents, create entities, import them, work with dialog flows, measure intent classification models, build a simple IT support conversational application, and then we'll look at how to constantly or continuously measure and improve the performance of these models. Then moving on to section 4, we'll look at rich text analytics using Watson's natural language understanding. We'll look at how the natural language understanding API is the general purpose NLP for advanced text analysis. We'll look at some of the detailed in-depth capabilities of Watson NLU and the APIs that are available. We'll look at entities and relationships and how they can how you can extract them using NLU from text or URL or HTML pages. Then we look at other things like concepts, categories, keywords, and looking at sentiment and documotion. And then we'll actually build an application using Watson NLU that can analyze customer complaints. We'll take a customer complaints data set and we'll use a Python notebook to go and analyze those reviews and come up with new sets of insights. Then we'll look at some applications or use scenarios where NLU could be applied. Then we'll go to section 5, where we'll talk about adding speech recognition capabilities using Watson speech to text. We'll start with seeing how Watson speech to text is an API to convert human spoken or voice utterances into text. We'll look at I'll explain some voice speech recognition basics, including diarization, phonetics, phonemes, and language and acoustic models. Then we look at some deep dive capabilities of Watson speech to text. What are the APIs that are available, how you can apply them in some use cases, and where you can use them. We'll look at some out-of-the-box models, including broadband and narrowband, and transcribe the sample audio using Postman. And then we'll look at 3 ways in which you can make a transcription call to Watson speech to text, which are like WebSockets, HTTP REST, and asynchronous methods. Then we'll look at some basic concepts provided by speech to text, including corpus and other related things. Then we look at how to test out basic an out-of-the-box model using Node.js. Then we'll look at how to take an existing out-of-the-box model and customize it using a custom language model approach, so where you'll use the language model based approach to customizing Watson speech to text. And then you would also look at using how to use the acoustic model based approach to customizing speech to text. Then we'll build an application that would take earnings calls, financial earning calls, and transcribe it and do other deeper analysis for you to get a view into what the audio is talking about. Then finally, last but not least, in this part, we'll talk about training image recognition models using Watson visual recognition. We'll look at how visual recognition allows you to tag, classify, and deeply analyze images. Then I'll walk through some of the basics of computer vision, including classification, object detection, and segmentation. Then we look at what does the Watson visual recognition API do, looking at the API reference and operations and out-of-the-box models that are available. We'll look at image classification to identify classes within an image. We'll look at how do you detect faces in food using visual recognition. We'll look at how to extract text. Then we'll build a home, what I call a home room classifier based on pictures of your home, one of the rooms in your home. How do you train a model to identify which room it is? And then we'll use Watson Studio to train that custom classification model. We'll invoke that model from a simple application, and then we'll also deploy the custom model that we trained as a core ML model that you could test from an Apple device like an iPhone or an iPad. So like I said, a lot of content, but I've tried to distill it to in a very simple, easy to understand, but at the same time with a very hands-on approach. What are some of the prerequisites? You need to have a computer, needless to say. Doesn't matter, Windows, Mac, or Linux. I would expect you to have some basic knowledge of RESTful APIs, JSON, Node.js, and Python. You should have programmed in at least one language. You should be able to create a subscription to the IBM Cloud. Don't worry, I'll walk you through all of this. I don't expect anybody to have any background in machine learning or NLP or speech recognition. I'll teach you all of it, all the things that are needed. And Watson makes it very easy as well. And have patience. I try to explain concepts to everybody. Sometimes I may be slow, very descriptive, but be patient with with what I'm trying to do, and also finally the prerequisite is passion for learning. Goals of this course: I want to help you demystify what is IBM Watson. I want you to be able to get started with working with the Watson APIs on the cloud, understand how to infuse and where to apply those APIs when you're building your own applications, and also look at other APIs that are available on the IBM cloud. And we'll do a lot of hands-on activities in this course, but I hope at the end of this course you'd be able to explore, experiment, and accomplish a lot of things with the Watson APIs. So fasten your seatbelts and let's get started.